What's up? Welcome back to my channel, or for the first time if you're new, I'm Sylvan, and today I'm going to be reacting to another Angels of Delusion EP? It's been only 3 days! They evidently have been putting a lot of effort into this, and I'm very excited to see what it is. I guess we know where all of the EPs have been going to for the characters who didn't get any. This is truly a surprise, more so than even the first one, but it's super exciting, especially after the first one was so solid and really has just grown on me since I first reacted to it. And then you pair that with the very distinct art style in this thumbnail, and I'm very curious to see how different this is, how unique this is. We had a decently strong focus on Arya in the previous EP, so perhaps we might have a focus on Nangong or Suna here. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing the names right, but at least I remember the names. But either way, just gonna get into it and watch Turn Heartbeats into Tempo. Feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoy the video, leave a comment on your thoughts, consider becoming a channel member if you want to support me just that little bit extra, and let's get into this. I'm curious mainly to see actually if this is... Ooh, very different kind of song. Okay. Already doing aspect ratio stuff again. I love this. This is already the kind of music I love. So, this is even more my style. Okay. Already seem to have a Suna focus. I love the art style. Really love the very classic band guitar, bass, drums. Okay. Not like a massive explosion of energy, but I like the vibe. Born from Love Our Melody, huh? Interesting. She is the composer of the group. Huh. Also one of the least confident. I'm totally gonna need to re-listen to this a few times. Yeah, this is such a vibe. Dare to dream big even when it's hard. Yeah, that's a theme that seems to be running through all their music. Okay. Visually, this is amazing. Ooh, reaching out to yourself? Huh. Interesting. There's some stuff here. Going into some kind of bridge or something here, I imagine. Ooh. A little bit of English, okay. I love the animation here. Yeah. Wow. Hey. The vibe of this song, the feeling of it is so strong. Huh. Focus on love. Interesting. Make me whole. Huh. Ooh. I'm already picking up on some stuff here. I love the guitar. The sound of it is so solid. Oh, God. That's great. I love the vibe. This is such a solid EP once again. Different genre, but so many similar vibes while still being distinct. Even in the messaging and themes that I was catching in the lyrics, we're still dealing with this idea of following your passion, following your dreams, even when it is hard, even when there are these obstacles in your way, even when it's unreasonable. That seems to be the unifying theme of the Angels of Delusion, but the way it comes at it, the angle that it approaches that from, is very distinct. Where for Arya and Redreaming Angels, it was much more focused on the uncertainty, more so visually, but also in the lyrics to a degree. The uncertainty of the dream that they have, that kind of thing. For Suna here, who is very much the focus of this song, even more so than Arya was last song, I much more get this sense of, I don't know, seeking belonging, seeking that love that is talked about a lot in this song. Something that, if I'm to just sort of guess at here, character-wise, I imagine Suna may not have had much love outside of the fellow members of the Angels of Delusion. In forming this band, this idol group, being this incredibly shy and socially awkward girl, she finally is able to express and share these passions she has with like-minded people and grow closer to them because of that, and sort of share this love for what they are doing, love for the dream they follow, but also a love for each other, a love for this bond that they have. But to actually go through the EP and what it holds, another key aspect of this song that is immediately evident in just the first line here is there is a lot more of a focus on the nature of making music, the function of doing that, and the love that is put into it. Turn heartbeats into tempo. The very beating of your heart, the rhythm at which you live, being turned into something you express outward. And this, of course, ties in to the fact that, as I mentioned during the reaction, Suna is the main composer of the group. Though she is not necessarily writing every piece of music they do, she is of the group the person dedicated to the role of composing predominantly the majority of their stuff. So it makes sense that we have a bit more of that focus here. And I think it also works well for just the nature of the kind of character she is. Though they are all this sort of more idle character who all are dancing on stage, singing on stage, like we saw in Redreaming Angels, and though all of them to varying degrees are self-conscious or shy or whatever, Suna is by far the most self-conscious as far as we can see so far. To draw from the event that recently started, she claims she's the lead composer of the band just because she's worse at everything else. Something that I don't believe for a second, but do believe she thinks of herself. Her own self-worth is drastically lower than the others, even if Arya has these fears, has these anxieties, and presumably Nangong to an extent too. Suna seems to be the one most crippled by her anxiety, lack of social skills, that kind of thing. So to have the main thing she contributes specifically as a special aspect to their music being the composition side, there is something really solid to that character-wise. But I'm, once again, going beyond the song itself, but that is absolutely an aspect to what it's doing here. But moving forward a few lines, we get to this idea of fate and crossroads, and how whether you turn left or right, you just don't want to look back. You shouldn't look back. Speaking to the idea that you shouldn't hesitate, you shouldn't question the path you're on, you should just push forward on this path, make a decision, don't regret it. Continuing on, we get to the line, the story of me and you means more than we've known. The importance of our meeting, of this journey we're going on to follow these dreams of ours, means more than we ever could have thought when we started. To Suna, who presumably is the perspective of this song, when starting this band, she could have never imagined what it would do for her and the rest of the members. The amount it presumably has brought her out of her shell, the amount of comfort and a sense of love it has given her to have these bonds with these people, to share this passion with them, to chase this dream, has meant far more than she ever could have imagined. Then we get to some interesting lines. This moment is safe. I will keep it in my heart. The wording of safe is interesting to me, because inevitably the back half of I will keep it in my heart makes me think that this is referring to a precious memory, something that wants to be cherished. But the wording of safety adds a little bit of texture to it, I think, because it's not just that this is a precious memory, a moment that she wants to hold on to. It is that, but perhaps the reasoning of it is because she feels safe. In this moment, she is safe. She is not anxious. She is not afraid. She is not hesitant. There is a comfort brought upon by whatever this moment is. Presumably something related to hanging out with the other Angels of Delusion, or writing music, or something related to that. There's this almost yearning for safety, for comfort, which actually points to the idea that if safety is what is being sought, perhaps it is something she does not always have, or doesn't think she has. If she, in her normal daily life, at least prior to joining the band, forming the band, whatever, if she was constantly anxious and afraid of any interaction with people, or completely unsure of what she's doing or where she's going in life, to suddenly have this drive, this position forward, and this safety among close friends who share that passion and drive, to suddenly have that comfort, to that belonging, that safety, perhaps that's what it's pointing to. And those lines are then followed by, feel all the emotions deep inside my soul come alive. She has found this comfort, she cherishes it in her heart, she holds on to it, and then whether it is that safety and comfort enabling her to set alight all of her emotions and voice them openly, something she potentially never would have been able to do, or alternatively it being that now in this position of comfort and safety, she now has begun to dream to have these emotions rise up in the first place and has the need to express them. Either way, it serves to be this rising of emotion, this bubbling up of feeling that needs to come out, expressed in some way, of course in this case through song. And then we enter the chorus, and this is where some things are pretty interesting as well. It begins with the call out, sing with me, trace the notes we left behind. And that is quite intriguing. The notes we left behind, that wording implies that there is a past to this, implies that there is a journey that has been walked that can be traced. Of course, it doesn't need to imply that that journey has finished, just that it has left its mark. Though perhaps this may be a bit too confident of an interpretation, is perhaps Suna reaching out to all of those people like her who can listen to the song, all of those who are paralyzed by fear and anxiety, and telling them, I was there, but I managed to find people and step out of my boundaries and reach for something and strive to do something I'm passionate for, and you can do the same. You can trace the notes we leave behind and find your way to somewhere you belong, with people you belong with, doing something you believe in. Perhaps that's it? The rallying cry of an anxious introvert to all other anxious introverts. There's something to that, I think, that may be the case. There is a certain confidence that enters during this chorus, perhaps born out of that passion that she is expressing now that she has found that comfort. But then at the same time, that might not be it, seeing as the next line says, let music take us back in time. So perhaps it's not telling others to trace our steps, but rather a look back at how far we've come, an acknowledgement that the music we have made are almost like time capsules of when they were made. The emotions that were felt and expressed through this song were the emotions that they felt when they wrote it. So looking back at some of their first few songs, they can sort of step back into where they were at that time and perhaps see how far they've come. I think maybe that is more accurate to what is being said here, though I think there is still something to my previous interpretation. And then we get a few quick lines that more so tie into the main themes of the Angels of Delusion rather than anything strongly specific to Suna, but of course it ties into her inevitably as well. Joy we share on stage, passion lights the way. Let our minds run free, nothing we can't be. It is this freedom, this passion that moves them forward and defies any capacity to hold them back. This joy and passion that propels them forward, that breaks all barriers, that makes them believe, no matter how delusional it may be, that they can be anything. Nothing we can't be Another way of just saying, I can be anything, we can be anything. And then at the sort of end of the chorus here, we get the main sort of terminology for the thematics of this song introduced. Born from love, our melody. Love being the key term there. That is something that comes up multiple times throughout this song. This melody, something born out of passion and joy and energy and just rising, surging emotion. Where does that come from? Love. That's where it comes from. But what is that love for? Honestly, who's to say? But the way I look at it for Suna is how I've been saying. It's love for her friends. It's love for this passion and dream they share. It's love for the comfort that all of that grants her. It's love for what she has gained that she may not have had before. Of course, it is not just Suna's love, but all of their love. Then we have a bit of an instrumental break where we return to the tighter, closer to 4:3 ratio that I want to just acknowledge because I didn't earlier. I especially love how all the little sparkles and effects don't abide by the ratios. They just step out of the black bars, which is really fun. But then visually we're getting this scene of realistically a moment of Suna trying to compose presumably a new song, starting with Arya and Nangong eagerly sort of over her shoulders waiting to see what she comes up with, only for her to just sort of shoo them away, only then for her to just sort of awkwardly hover over the keyboard while the two of them are just doing whatever in the background. And then finally, later into the evening, seemingly the two of them already left, her still just sort of looming over the keyboard, clearly stuck. A feeling inevitably felt by any creative out there. But then as the lyrics come back, one of the first lines we get is "the future's waiting for you and me." A very, very pertinent line, I feel. I believe it best ties into the idea of the inevitability of their dream, this crazy out there dream and ideal of what they want to achieve. It's waiting for them in the future. They're bringing their songs to life, their music to life, filling it with all these emotions and passion, and it's propelling them further and further towards their dream that is just waiting for them out ahead, impossibly far out, but getting ever so slightly closer with every song, with every performance. And this idea is further emphasized by the immediate next couple lines. We only follow our own rules, because dreamers can't be tamed. Logic and reason have no place in the mind of a dreamer. The rules of what is likely, what is possible, are not a true impediment to someone driven by passion, driven by just that blind drive to achieve a dream. And this is matched with the visual of a notebook of Suna's flying open with pages flying all over the place, revealing just countless pieces of written, composed music. Maybe nothing complete, but just countless examples of her working at her craft, working at this dream. We then get a repetition of the line, "This moment's safe," as we get a flash of some moment amongst all of them, seemingly holding a pile of flyers each, potentially promoting like an upcoming show or something. Once again, reinforcing this idea that Suna finds safety in their presence, in this time they spend together, in the time they spend following their dream. But this time, it's followed by the lines, "Inside our hearts, dare to dream big even when it's hard." A set of lines that is inevitably the most explicit version of what I've been talking about through both of these songs. It is a very direct statement of the entire idea of the Angels of Delusion. Even when it's hard, even when it seems impossible, dare to go for that big dream, to follow that passion, to follow what brings you joy. Just because it's hard, you shouldn't give up on a dream. If when you think of that dream, it builds that emotion in your heart and soul, and you want to let it out, let it out. It doesn't matter if it doesn't go anywhere, as long as you follow that dream, as long as you express that emotion, follow that drive. That's what's important here. Dare to dream big, even if it's just dreaming. Don't be afraid. From here we go back into the chorus, and it's largely the same, but near the end here, with the lines of sharing joy on stage and passion leading the way, we have this scene of Suna running down the street as we get flashes of Nangong and Arya, but now followed by the lines, "Our hearts create magic between us," slightly shifting the emphasis of this part to the bond they share, the love they share, the passion they share. Magic is made through the bond of their time together. The collision of these three passionate dreamers that otherwise, prior to meeting each other, may have just sit and stewed and let these emotions fester inside them, finally have the passion and drive and wish and need to express that outward, and that becomes a form of magic. From here, we see much more directly, from her perspective, Suna reaching out towards Nangong and Arya, almost chasing after this bond in a way, feeling every rush, like the rising sun, shining bright on it all. As she moves past the two of them, then there's just this bright light. Everything is pretty abstract at this point, until eventually Suna has dove back into her room, but reaching out now towards herself. It's this very intriguing image to me. Given the previous lines about following the traces back to the past, it leads me to sort of two possibilities here, both of which being sort of this desperate reaching out to the self, to the past self, realistically, potentially desperately wishing that her past self had stepped out of her shell sooner, had met them sooner, had not been so closed off, something along those lines. Like she has found this place of comfort and safety and passion and love that she didn't always have, and wish she could have had sooner, and wish if she had just done things differently, she could have had all the sooner, perhaps. But of course, a more tragic way to look at it is perhaps this is not from the perspective of her in this moment of safety, looking back to prior to having that, but rather from after she's lost this moment of safety, lost this moment of passion and magic and love, and is now yearning to get back to it. That is inevitably a possibility, but I'm sort of resonating more with the first interpretation. But regardless, we then enter a bit of an instrumental section that then goes into a bit of a bridge, where we see her stumble and fall as she reached out to herself, whether it's her past self or whatever, only for when she stands up to see Arya and Nangong there in her room with her, playing music and singing, as we get the lines, "Love heals this world." The thing that pushes her forward, motivates her to follow this passion, and elevates this passion, this emotion, this drive, is love. It's the bond she shares with these people. To ground it more specifically, she may have had a passion for music before this band, before the Angels of Delusion, before meeting any of its other members. But at that time, her writing music would have just been her own passion, would have been motivated purely by her own drives, and she would be alone as she does it. But now, she is with others who share that passion. She can sit in a room with a shared love of music and create music out of that love. It heals this world, it heals any of these anxieties, any of these pains of the past, and births passion and drive and safety and comfort out of it. And it's here that we get one of the stronger lines of the song, honestly, because love is more than a word. Love is not something that you can define just in a single word. Love is something and does something almost indescribable. And love itself is almost indescribable. Even if you were to describe it more verbosely, there is no one definition that fits everything that love is. It encompasses that passion, it encompasses that drive, it encompasses that safety and that comfort, it encompasses that yearning. And with that line, Suna reaches out to her keyboard to join Arya and Nangong in singing and dancing and performing music and just love. It pulls me close, then melts me down. This love draws me in and just begins to break me down. Entwined, undone. It's something I cannot escape, and it changes me. Let me burn and start anew. The change, the undoing of love is not a bad thing. It is an ignition, this burning of yourself to burn bright and become something new. Forgo the anxieties and fears of your past self and replace them with the passion and love and drive and comfort of a new you. By embracing that love, it changes you. all for the better, or at least it can. Come closer and hold me tight, our hearts will resonate, as we see a glimpse of Suna alone, replaced with her and the other members of the Angels of Delusion. Their hearts are resonating. They are holding each other close. They are embracing this love, letting it change them, letting these emotions burst forth out of them, and it only grows bigger as it resonates between them. Make me whole, then show me how to love it all again. This love remakes me. It makes me whole as we resonate. An emptiness is filled, a brokenness is undone, and now I yearn for it to do it all again. The comfort and joy and passion born from this love that makes me into a better person than I was, I yearn for again. I yearn and seek for that just pure bliss and comfort of being whole. So as the song fades out, we end on the subject of that love, the thing that enabled that love and resonates and makes it grow even bigger. It's the three of them, their bond. Their coming together is what remade Suna and made her into a better version of herself. Perhaps it did for all of them, which is just really, really solid. The entire song is really cohesive here, and to just sort of step out of the more thematic analysis, visually and audibly, it is just a delight. I really like the somewhat messier art style that the whole animation has. I really like the style of song. Despite being an entirely different genre from Redreaming Angels, it carries a lot of that same energy, I feel. There is a fairly chill, laid-back nature to a lot of the song, but also this passionate energy in there. It never explodes out into a chaotic mess, but there is that passion, that energy, this strong emotion that is expressed. And that is something it shares with Redreaming Angels, despite being entirely different genre. And I really appreciate that. That level of sort of aesthetic and thematic consistency across genre does a really good job to tie the two songs in my mind to the same group. And yeah, I mean, I'm just a big fan of this. It's touching on a lot of the same ideas as Redreaming Angels, but in its own way, from its own perspective. I almost now expect for us to get at least one more of these for Nangang, to see her unique perspective on what it means to be part of the Angels of Delusion to her, what her bond with the other members does for her, what it means to her, that kind of thing. And that's all to say that these are before we're even to the point that these are characters being promoted to be released. We got the drip marketing for 2 of them already, but we haven't even hit the live stream to announce their kits and stuff, which inevitably brings the question, are we just gonna keep getting EPs, or are we just getting a ton early and then they won't come at the normal times? Or are we just gonna have so fucking many? I'd love if we just got like 6 or 7 songs, but I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do. Either way, I'm fucking excited, but I'm gonna leave it here, I think, because I've pretty thoroughly covered the whole song, I think. So feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, leave a comment on your thoughts, and very special thanks to all of my channel members, including Amorphosilica Desaize, Pokelove 101, and Unusual Echo at the normal tier, and Kanu Nano at the cool person tier. Really appreciate your support, as always, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye!